yeah, nah, nah, nah. Run!
Hey, Jennifer Walden here. This is Mix's Sound for Film award season virtual event. Joining me is supervising sound editor, sound designer, re-recording mixer Johnnie Burn, known for his work on Yorgos Lanthimos films like The Favorite, The Lobster, and The Killing of a Sacred Deer. Hello, Johnnie. It's so nice to see you.
Jennifer, hi. Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
Thank you so much for taking this time to talk about Jordan Peele's sci-fi horror Nope, released by Universal Pictures. So Nope tells the story of siblings OJ and M. Haywood, who take on a predatory, unidentified flying object that's been harassing their horse farm in California. But Nope is not your average alien film or horror film. So Johnnie, what was Jordan Peele's direction in terms of sound? Like, did he give you guidelines or references to help guide your choices for sound on this film?
Jordan did. I mean, Jordan really understands sound. So he wrote a script that he knew was going to be really crucial to using sound to tell the story, and he got me involved probably 6 months before the shoot because he knew that understanding the script development would inform how they were going to shoot it, and also prove the concept that you could actually do an awful lot with this film with off-camera sound, and therefore, that cheapens the VFX budget by some degree, doesn't it? So yeah, but yeah, Jordan was he had some pretty clear ideas when I first spoke to him about how sound would be used, and I read an early draft of the script, and I was amazed by how much it used the word sound to describe all sorts of things that were kind of happening. And yeah, Jordan's someone who really understands how to write a scene where sound can be the narrative driving force.
Getting involved that early, right? 6 months before shooting, you're in the previs stage, you're looking at storyboards and the script. So is that like freeing for you as a sound designer, or is that kind of like nerve-wracking because you're not designing to picture, you're just got this idea pretty much in your head of what this might look like?
It was great. I mean, honestly, as a sound designer, it was to be able to have a hand in steering how the all sorts of aspects of the creation of the monster might turn out. I sat in all these Zoom calls with the NASA fluid dynamics professor who helped us understand how this kind of thing could credibly work, because we knew if it was going to be credible, then people would believe it, obviously, and then that's more scary. So as a sound designer, I was like sitting there thinking, okay, well, if it acts on wind, then wind is a really useful thing that we can use to create the sound of, okay, the wrong wind, and maybe a gust of wind that sounds a bit strange, but then you can extrapolate wind into all sorts of other things like whistles and screams and all sorts of things like that. So, I mean, yeah, to be involved that early on and to be able to somewhat steward how the film is going to be filmed was an amazing opportunity. Totally, yeah.
And so the first time that we see this UFO in Nope, it's very different from the last time that we see it, which is in its full glory as a space creature that they've dubbed Jean Jacket. So can you talk about how you evolved the sound to match this reveal in the film?
With the monster, with Jean Jacket in Nope, we had there's basically kind of three areas that we had to create sound for. One was Jean Jacket in stealth mode, and that's very much, you can't hear me. We hear a gust of wind. Maybe it ends a bit quickly, or there's a strange whistle. Then towards the middle of the film, it's very much hello, and Jean Jacket now has some form of a voice. But very clearly, we wanted to be sure that could equally be, I'm hearing a spaceship blasting and tooting, or I'm hearing some personification. And we had to work through all those ideas. And then the scene you mentioned at the end is this flamboyant show pony, look at me, Jean Jacket, which is the full-on kind of, I am not in stealth mode, quite the opposite. And that was great fun because, the design for the first part of the film was very much about subtlety and all the kind of things that sound designers traditionally don't particularly like, because it's you rarely get the opportunity to do exactly what you want, big loud sounds. And yeah, so here at the end, we we played with all sorts of things and tuning different winds to find specific musical frequencies in the wind to make the beast sound more harmonic, and then ultimately throwing in this enormous blast of a peacock, which was slowed down, I think, 7 octaves in order to make it sound like, the kind of foghorn that it is, and scare the bejesus out of everyone.
And so the first time that Jean Jacket is flying over, right, you said that you leaned on a lot of wind sounds, and that's also mixed with human screams that range from fun to sort of frightened. Can you share some details on that approach? Like, what was the secret to making that successfully ambiguous?
So there's lots about the kind of the overall mix of Nope that's a kind of work of art to interpret. You have to experience it and make your own conclusions about what you're hearing, in the same way that the characters who are so relatable in the film do. And we witness OJ at the beginning of the film, knowing that he's heard a scream. He looks up in the first few minutes of the film, but he questions his own judgment on it, and he thinks, "Oh, was it just wind that I heard?" And you kind of are thinking the same thing. So that was all the area that we had to explore, was this misdirect and the confluence between things that sound awful and things that sound really nice. So I spent quite a bit of time hanging around out about a mile away from roller coaster parks and recording the kind of the distant faint screams that are actually people enjoying themselves. And then we Gianna Colton Timms, the dialogue supervisor, spent a great fun with Loop Group and taking those sounds and then doing a version where they record happy, happy, happy roller coaster screams, and then it comes into death sort of stuff. So we explored the vast arena of things that sound the same but different, which is the whole thing that Nope does, kind of play with your senses a little bit. You're not sure if you're hearing good or bad a lot of the time.
So the first time that we really hear that big blast from Jean Jacket, it's after Jean Jacket abducts the plastic decoy horse, and then it flies over to Jupe, and he's like standing there giving his speech. So you mentioned a peacock pitched down many, many octaves. What else went into that incredible blast that comes from Jean Jacket?
So that blast is great, isn't it? Because up until that point, you've only heard Jean Jacket as this sort of distant, faint thing that you're not quite sure if you're actually hearing anything at all. And then Jean Jacket arrives at the scene and wants to be known, is perturbed. And so yeah, the important thing about that was it had to be visceral. We did look at Close Encounters, that earth-shattering window shaking scene, and we wanted to have the kind of the depth of that sound, but it also had to potentially retrospectively be personified, animal, but initially at first glance be sci-fi and spaceship. So there is a Moog synthesizer from the 80s. There's a trombone. There's me growling, and there's all sorts of there's the peacock, and that's pretty much where we ended up. And then in the last week of the final mix, Jordan was like, "I'm not quite sure that's just Johnny. Have you got a kazoo you can put in there as well?" And so that was the sort of the final little icing on the cake that we threw in. It's a subtle blend of many different things in order to create the misdirect of angry spaceship versus angry monster.
Nothing like the last minute, can we throw in a kazoo?
I think that, it'd be nothing without the kazoo, right? I mean, I hear it in there every time.
So you took a trip out to California. You went to the set, actually, of this film. What did you capture while you were out there?
I did. I captured a lot of good times, but more importantly, it was interesting. The visiting the film set was useful because obviously for me, creating an immersive soundscape that is credible is really crucial to believing that the film happened. And I was very lucky that I was allowed access to the dub stage at Universal at the same time. So I'd made some recordings and I'd go and play them against a bit of rushes in the theater, during the shoot, and think, right, okay, what else do I need to create the illusion? So that was really informative. I went around for the scene where stuff is being ejected by Jean Jacket above the house. All the blood rain and all the objects. I placed loads of microphones around the house and and then went upstairs and threw furniture around and threw stuff on the roof of the house and recorded it for real, so that it actually sounds kind of incredibly the same, and the same acoustics as the actors had on their voices and all that stuff. And obviously the winds in the valley, it's a very hot place, and it bakes, and the wind shifts very fast. So there's also a lot of recording of that. But I think also what was useful about visiting the shoot was letting the actors and Hoyter, the cinematographer, and everyone else know what the intentions were with sound, and playing them, this is what this is going to sound like. And they're like, really? Oh shit, I better change my facial expression to, kind of that kind of stuff. And Hoyter realizing where he could, perhaps place the camera if we knew that the sound was going to be so descriptive, then perhaps there's a more interesting shot, which is and discussing with things like, the use of Dolby Atmos is great, but it tends to be the case that when there is a sound above you, the camera points up, and so you're looking up, and so the sound in the theater that you're in now won't necessarily need to be above you, because the point of view is now that the sound is behind you. So explaining things like that to Hoyt, and saying it'd be great if we had a shot where you don't look up, so up is still actually technically above us, and then we can use Dolby Atmos for its sort of full advantage of height information, rather than kind of pseudo it's above you. So yeah, it was useful for recording and all sorts. Yeah.
That's really cool that you can influence the shots like that. You never hear of that opportunity. You never hear of that happening.
It was amazing. Yeah, it was great. Jordan's so collaborative, and he obviously, with the script, he just really understood that sound was going to be a really important part of understanding how that the concept would work, and that that it would be believable. So I think, yeah, I was probably involved considerably more than most a sound designer would be during a normal movie.
Awesome. So I'm a big fan of crafted reverbs, and the work that you did on this film, it's just incredible, right? So first there was that nighttime scene in the gulch when Ghost the horse gets sucked up. That was so amazing. Did you capture any IRs of the gulch during your visit to the set?
We took our impulse responses of everything. We went down there with a starting pistol, and we recorded in the house and all around the gulch. And I know what you mean. Like, I hate it when the scene just has reverb on it and that's it. No, for me, it's look at the shot. So there'll be one splash off that surface, one off that, and so because of the complexities, I used all the reverbs as baked pieces of audio. So I rendered out. I took every dialogue and every sound that was playing, and would render out a separate reverb clip that I could pan, because there wasn't enough headroom in the processing to run the amount of reverb plugins that I wanted to. But so very much it was convolution reverbs, impulse responses, and 6 or 7 different clips for all the key set pieces, particularly that scene in the gulch. There's it begins with a blast of wind that comes from behind you towards, and that starts with reverb in front of you, and ends up with reverb behind you as the sound moves in the other direction.
You hear Jupes. You don't realize it yet, but there's like Jupes show down the gulch, and you can hear all of that coming up the gulch, and then Jean Jacket flies over, and you hear that. There's just so many multi-layered reverbs. It's just beautiful.
And it's great. And that's quite early in the film. And what's really interesting there is, as an audience, you're sitting there thinking, okay, this is important. There's real details there that I can pick up because I'm a human and I have really fine-tuned hearing, but normally films don't grace that. And so, and you're like, oh, well, actually, wow, that's really subtle. I need to pick up, So you learn early on that all those details are massively important.
And then there was that other great scene with reverb, which was the long distance screamed conversation between Jupe and M, as OJ and M are trying to set up a decoy
for horse training. That one.
Yeah. Can you talk about your reverb work on that scene?
Sure. There's I think what's great about that scene is Keke Palmer has so much charisma and such a loud voice, and it's brilliant. The way that Nick cut it, so that she would shout something and then you cut to OJ and he would deadpan a response. But to hear her carrying on into OJ's space was really important. So So yeah, we took her voice and we played it through a speaker in a real world scenario, and recorded that and played it with convolution reverbs. And what you're hearing is just is in the 5.1 mix. It's just a different reverb hitting every speaker in the room. So when you cut to OJ and he says, she says it's in the clouds, and he's like, uh-huh. But I think editing is all about rhythm, isn't it? Particularly picture editing, and what that does is it just extends the rhythm of her presence into his space and gives a beautiful comic timing for his uh-huh.
So I think I just have one final question for you. What was one thing you learned while working on the sound of Nope that has helped you to further your craft as a sound designer and as a mixer?
I think it's important. I mean, we mixed it full of, the whole kind of visceral energy and bombast that you need to get a kind of blockbuster movie, really being full of energy. But I think what I really learned more than ever was that removing stuff, the process of redaction, is so crucial, and allowing yourself time to take things out. And the use of silence that we kind of employed in the final stages of the mix actually was just because we had the time to go through every scene and think, right, what would this be like with some stuff taken out, and so getting to the point of knowing that you've got some good stuff there now take out anything that isn't really doing a good job. So yeah, redaction is what I learned more than anything there.
And is that something that you do throughout the whole process? Because you were sound editing and mixing this all at the same time. So as you're building it up, were you also trying to take things out, or was that something that you left to the end?
I definitely redacted a lot of bad ideas in the in the sound design. I think, I mean, I did, I wore the three hats of sound designer, sound editor, and mixer because I was on it for, almost 2 years. But so we knew that, for example, with the mix, it wouldn't be too much workload for me because I, I was creating the mix during the shoot and understanding how it would all be put together. And we pre-planned the whole thing so much and built an entire soundscape of the film before even the film was shot. So yeah, I think the whole way through, for the 6 months before shooting, I had a weekly conversation with Jordan where we would discuss ideas, and that would be the moment at which we would discard. There was a pile of stuff that would go in the bin of this is a good idea, and then the Z bin was, has 99% of all the ideas in it. Definitely.
Well, thank you again, Johnnie, for taking some time to talk about your sound edit and mix on Nope. I loved your sound work on this film. I thought you did an incredible job. So best of luck to you this awards season.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's amazing. It's great to work on a film where people, everyday people walk out the cinema and are talking about the sound. That's quite a cool thing. So thank you very much, Jennifer. Lovely talking to you.